I wanted to come over here. Listen to me. Listen to me. I wanted to come over here and record some things about some old times as far as the people that you knew and the people that I knew. That way we can compare notes because I plan on doing a book and I need all the facts that I can get. I'm so sorry that you fell and you had to break your hip over an illegitimate event that happened to you right here because you know as well as I do that dog food was not on the floor. Here comes your sister, you sissy. What's going on?
Nothing.
I tell you a little bit. She told me a little bit about what happened. Same old 6 and 7, ain't it?
Yeah.
When you get time, I'd like for you to sit down for a second
Let me
and.
put this in now.
Okay.
Tammy.
Well, I mean, you got to picture.
Tammy.
You got to keep in mind that Tammy is on a different wavelength, just simply because of her age difference between y'all and her, and plus,
But these two don't get along.
well, naturally.
So Tammy called, Tammy called the police out here. But we all went to bed. The police wondered, well, where's everybody?
So Tammy called the police this time.
Yeah, and also the guy that she lived with that lives in Union City.
Set her up to
He
it.
called the police out here also.
Set her up to it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, if you can't read through that, something's wrong. One thing that I wanted to ask is this, and I know you got a lot to have to deal with. I've gotten a dog that's about 5 times smaller than that dog. She's about that high and about that long, and that's going to be her fullest extent of her growth. She's about 1.5 years old.
oh really?
Her name is Peanut.
Must be
She's a female.
Must be
She's
true.
never been spaded. But next week I plan on going camping, and I was wondering what y'all would charge me to hang on to my little dog, and I'll pay for the dog food and pay for your expenses towards taking care of her. I hate to leave her in a cage all that length of time while I'm up there camping up there in Lamb Between the Lakes.
Yeah, we can
I
keep.
took my dog with me when we went camping. She slept in there on the sleeping bag and
You
everything.
know, I
think
ain't never
you've
thought
had it.
about that. I could just take her with me, couldn't
Yeah,
I?
you can put her on a leash. You know,
She loves to cuddle.
well,
She
Yeah.
loves to get right beside me and cuddle while I'm sleeping.
I used to sleep. And when I took the kids camping, I took.
Have you ever
Penny
cuddled with a dog?
all the time? I sleep with 2 of them
Well, I sleep with a cat and a dog.
I sleep with this
right
one.
there.
And this one right every night.
I got this one and the poodle.
So these
Every
are your
night.
companions?
Yeah, they're my bed partners. You want to call it my alarm clock?
Your alarm clock, your
Right about 6 o'clock. I've got this number. Him standing up in the bed.
wanting to get up.
Get up.
Well, listen, I'm recording this conversation right now
Okay.
because I'm wanting to document some things about my life. That way I can reflect back on the content of putting out a book. I didn't let you know this the other day, but I actually had troubles with one of y'all's friends, which don't hold that against me, please.
I would just do that.
Okay, well, her name is Betty Neal. Leroy
Leroy
Neal's
Neal's wife.
Leroy Neal's
Yeah,
wife.
she's been sick with the flu.
I didn't know that.
She's been real sick. She's been staying home.
You don't think she's got the COVID, do you?
Well, I don't know. All I know, Bessie told me
Yeah, she's got
Basically,
cancer too.
that she had the old-fashioned flu,
Well, it may be.
which is contagious.
Oh, yeah, it's very contagious.
Yeah.
But I had problems with her and her family going all the way back into the mid-'80s. And I got to knowing Leroy. Believe it or not, Leroy Neal's mother is kin to us on the Jordan side. And I got to knowing Brother Leroy and Terry and Kay and Faye and all of them,
Yeah.
Betty and all of them. I got to knowing all of them long about 19 84, somewhere
See,
in
they
there.
lived by us when she was pregnant with Kay and Faye, and Mother was pregnant with me.
Really? Really?
Of
So y'all
Chicago.
go way, way back then, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Y'all go 50 years back, don't you?
Dad and Leroy grew up together.
They did.
They were boys together.
They was.
Yeah.
What?
Grandma and Granddaddy Duran were good friends with his mom and daddy.
Down there by Macedonia? Down there
Yeah,
by Macedonia
Yeah,
area?
Luther, Neil.
Yeah, Luther and all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever tell you that story about Luther?
Everybody knew each
Everybody knew everybody back then.
Give that dog something to eat. Look at her begging for you.
She's a chow hound.
She's a begging for something to eat. She's just sitting there twisting her head, going back and forth. Every time you'd move that sandwich, you'd move that head back and
Oh,
forth.
Yeah, they've known each other since way back. They were even when
Oh.
Grandma and Granddaddy went to New Mexico.
All right.
They were out there working for Tom Wade on a sheep ranch.
Okay.
Lung problems. Granddaddy had TB. And I think Luther had some problems too.
Yeah.
And he went out there for those reasons.
He sure did.
Right.
And he also died out there too, didn't he?
No,
No.
he died in Kenton.
He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, maybe he did.
Grandma had pictures of Dad and Leroy. They were just teenagers.
Betty's mother died in Kenton.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all knew old Dr. Jack, didn't you? Not the Dr. Jack Jr., but old Dr. Jack, didn't you?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
delivered her.
We knew him.
Good
I
grief.
knew
my
Dr.
doctor.
Jack. He sold my head up
For
a
him
few
to deliver,
times.
for him
Yeah.
to deliver
was
me, it cost him cost my daddy a little white chicken.
Did
for
you
him
know?
for
Did you know
supper.
the Jewish family here in Kenton?
Shots us.
The Schatzes?
Oh yeah.
You knew them too?
Mhm.
I was told those was pretty good people.
Yeah,
And
George
they-
Ann worked for him
and
some
they-
when she was young.
I think those Shotzi stores still in Union City.
Yeah, I think so too. Associated with them some way or another.
Yeah, that was their kids or something, but it's still the same.
But anyways, I got entangled with the Neal family in major Bible study.
Yeah.
You remember whenever
Yeah.
Leroy?
They
It was
were-
one of Leroy Neal's last stands. Whenever he had that implement place over here, just outside of Kenton, going towards Union
yeah,
City.
all the old,
by
old
the-
farm stuff out
Yeah,
there.
all that
Yeah,
farm stuff.
Yeah,
I was helping him during that time,
yeah, because
doing some farming and also helping him with some implementing stuff.
Yep.
And we would have Bible study on Tuesday night. We'd go
Oh,
to
yeah.
church on Wednesday night. We'd go to church on Sunday morning. We'd go to church on Sunday evening.
They'd go to that place in Union City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we would go. We was steadily reading the scriptures, and deciphering the Bible, the King James Version Bible,
Yeah.
probably for about a year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
before they finally washed their hands with me in 1988. Whenever I wound up sending 8 tapes to the White House that finally got the Cold War ended, pertaining to Ronald Reagan convincing the superpowers that the world was not going to end by a nuclear holocaust, but it was going to end with biblical Bible prophecy.
I think it is.
I know it is, because it says in the Bible that he will be the one that will destroy the world. It doesn't say that
That's
he's
right.
going to give man the ability, or he's going to give man the right to destroy the world. He's going to destroy the world. Now it does say that he will come back and destroy humanity because of the things that we're doing to this world over in Revelations. It does say that.
Yeah.
That he will come back and
I know
destroy.
he'll come back.
He will come back and destroy humanity
He's
for the
gonna come
things that
back.
humanity is doing to this world
He's
right
going
now.
to take the Christians,
He'll take the Christians out.
the people that believe in him, and the rest of them are left.
But did y'all ever know a guy by the name of Jamie Hill?
Yeah.
James Hill?
James Hill, yeah.
Yeah.
He died of brain cancer.
He's what?
He
Dead?
died of brain cancer.
He did. When did he pass away?
James Hill, I know, he was younger than me.
He's probably still alive.
He was from Reeves.
Probably a little bit, yeah. Did he hang around the Neal family a lot?
I don't know. I know he was related to Freddie Jordan, Freddie's mama was a
Yeah.
heel.
I think he was.
Did you know?
They were-
So when did he die?
Yeah.
Oh God, a long time ago. He had brain cancer.
He may have had.
He
No,
left a
Freddie-
wife and three little
Freddie-
boys.
No, Freddie just died.
Freddie just died. But yeah, his mama was a heel. I guess his mama and his
May
mama
have
were
been.
sisters.
Well, do you know much about Terry Neal?
I know he's preaching.
Right.
I think he's preaching. Was preaching at a little church, Church of God, going
On
into
on the
Union
way
City.
to Union City.
Yeah, that,
Well, him and his family, Faye, not so much Faye, but Kay, that
Yeah.
married Woody.
yeah.
I've had some really, really extensive problems with them people. A matter of fact, whenever Leroy Neal's sister died, what was her name that used to be the mayor up here in Kenton?
Virginia.
Who?
Virginia.
Virginia
Davison.
Davison.
Yeah.
I was going to go to the funeral, and I went to, what is this, First Assembly of God Church or First God
I
Church?
don't know.
Up here outside of Kenton, going towards
That's the Church of God out there.
Church of God. All right. Do you know the pastor out there?
Uh,
His name's Brother Dennis. Well, I went in, going to view the body, pay my last respects,
Yeah.
and I sat in the church pew for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then I got up to go view the body, and all of a sudden, here come 5 or 6 big old men coming in there with guns and stuff, and telling me that if I didn't leave voluntarily, that I would be forced to leave involuntarily. They forced me out of that church.
I don't know nothing about that.
Somebody knows something about you that.
Well, once more, word kin to the Neals pertaining to Leroy Neal's mother that was kin to the Jordans.
Why would they want you out?
Well, the reason why they wanted me out was because I had made reference to the fact that there was controversy with the Neal family and the Jackson family in regards to interpreting scriptures. But just because you interpret scriptures differently doesn't mean each other has to be.
A lot of people read, and each person will get something different.
That's right. It doesn't mean that we have to be at enemies with one another,
That's right.
does it?
No. Should be in.
A while ago, I stopped up at church, and Dennis come out talking to me for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And did you know that he threatened to call the law on me simply because I was sitting there talking to him about all of this that had happened?
I don't know.
That's wrong. Whenever you can't no longer openly discuss the things that happened in the past, and I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to live in the past. And at the same time, I realize that a lot of the things that happened in the past, there's not a cotton picking thing that I can do about it one way or the other, or no one else
You wanna
can.
live your
No,
life.
you're supposed to learn. from
But
the
what
past.
we can do is embrace one another about the grievances that we had in the past and try not to make the same mistakes. That way in the future, our future will look brighter and better.
Well, that's what the Bible tells you.
But a while ago, he threatened to call the law on me simply because that I was bringing up a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing up right now about the Neal family. And it wasn't just the Neal family. You remember Damian Cross?
Yeah,
Yes, it
David
is.
Cross, yeah.
He was the mayor over here in Kenton at one
For a
time.
long
You know,
time.
this little White House down here, where you, just as you turn to come up our road.
Yeah.
The White House, on the left-hand side,
Yeah,
Damon Cross used to live there.
he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there used to be a school.
Well, somehow or
Now
another.
there used to one time. Now Damon Cross, I'm going by him. They drove up here one day, and at one time there was a school here,
Where?
here,
Right here where this house is right now?
Yeah.
or right out there in the front. I think there's still a little bit of concrete left out there.
What was it called? The Concord?
No, it was
Community?
It was a one room.
What is this? What is this church down here? Because my grandmother used to go to this church right down here.
Now there's a Church of Christ over here.
Yeah.
The big one. But there's a little one.
Concord.
Concord. This was
Yeah.
considered the Concord community
Yeah.
at one time. So probably Concord probably did have a
A
school right here. My grandmother may have very well went to the Concord, or her
Because
children may have.
Damon Cross went to school here when he was young.
Probably. Probably.
But I mean, there was one room schoolhouses all over.
Sure, that was one
And
room.
there used to be a road out here that went all the way
It went all the way
to
straight across.
Thomas Cherry Road.
It did.
There was a road. That's what Damon Cross told us.
Yeah, was telling us when he was out here. I mean, I had no idea.
Well, supposedly
just
we're
talk.
kin also to the Crosses. You said that you remember my grandmother,
Oh yeah.
and you remember coming down in the summertime and spending a lot of time over there with Aunt Lily and stuff.
Yeah, we used to go over there. She always had us something cold to drink and a cookie.
Absolutely. And my grandmother could cook some excellent pies, could she not, Miss
Yeah, she
Lucille?
could. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what they lived in that big white house.
Yeah. Yeah, I had
owned
it
that
tore down
property.
because it was falling in.
Right,
I owned that property for quite a while.
you did.
Yeah, she just sold it here not too long ago.
Did you know that old house was supposedly haunted?
Yeah, you was talking about that. I'd heard from people that had rented it about jewelry disappearing.
Jewelry disappearing and
Yeah.
hearing noises and doors opening and shutting, people walking around inside the house.
Yeah, the people that had rented it.
What the story was, see, my grandmother had a half sister that was kin to Aunt Lily and Uncle Jim,
Mm-hmm.
And did you know Jim?
Jim Ring.
Jim Ring. When he died, he donated all of his money and his property to Concord Church.
No, I didn't know. That's the first time I've heard of that.
Because if you go up to Concord Church,
Yeah, he donated. They bought
there's a sign on
on there with
on
his
the
name on
church.
it.
The people that put
They
it
put
together.
a lot of the money out to build the new church.
The Church of Christ Church is up here right
No,
now?
Concord Baptist Church. That's where they went to church.
Concord Baptist Church, where at in town?
Right down the road. That first.
The nice one, the big one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one.
Yeah, it's big now. But
Yeah,
it used to be just a brick
If you
church.
park there in front, you'll see there's a big
And
sign.
they put out a lot of money. A bunch of people.
Did they reverence him by putting his name on the building or somewhere?
there was
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, on the front. There's several names of
There's a
people who
song.
put the money out to build the new church.
I'll go and look at that.
Yeah, it's on the front.
I didn't know that. Jim Ring, did you know he fought in World War One? Have you ever seen such massive hands on a man? He was big, wasn't he? Big old arms and big old hands. He was
He wasn't tall.
he
was
wasn't
round.
tall, but he was an Amazon
You know-
looking man, wasn't he?
He was good. He was,
You know,
he was
He'd grab a hold of you,
And
you'd
a
know it,
person-
wouldn't you?
And a person could go out there and walk out through the graveyard.
I can tell
You
you,
know,
where
and
Mr.
you-
Jim's buried.
You would probably see a lot of people that you knew that's buried there. A lot.
Yeah, he's buried there right toward the, as you're coming in, you go around the little house in the center,
Yeah.
and you go straight down, and he's buried, him and Miss Lucille buried right down there at the very end. And her sister's buried there.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, they're both, all of them, they're all buried right there.
I'll
Yeah,
have to go
and
check
also
that out
it's-
because
and
Lily was grandma's half sister.
Mhm.
Because whenever my grandmother was born, whenever she was just an infant, her original mother died.
Yeah.
Her biological mother died.
Yeah.
And to this day, we still don't know where she's buried at.
Mhm.
We think she was buried up in Union City somewhere because that's
Sometimes
where
they-
they was at, was
But
up
sometimes
there.
They don't want to give out information too.
Well, I mean, just a lot of that information back then wasn't dialogue, wasn't
Wasn't wrote down.
wrote down like it is
Yeah.
today.
And also Sunnyside Graveyard.
That's right.
That's where,
You walk in there, you see.
Well, that's where my grandmother and her her husband and her dad. See, we're actually kin to the James gang, the famous outlaw James gang.
I was told that by my grandfather.
We was actually kin. My grandmother's father his name is James Jesse. James Jesse. James Jesse was his name.
Jesse James.
Jesse James, and he actually come down from the
Wow.
original
yeah,
Jesse James
when
gang.
they left Missouri, they came to Tennessee.
And there was Davy Crockett.
I didn't know nothing about the Davy Crockett pond.
Uh,
there is a lot of Crockett's
here-
around
here-
here.
No, the only living relatives of his, their last name is Patton. They live in Rutherford.
Really?
Albion River.
Well, there's
Yeah, he all
some
used to
there's
hunt.
some Crockett's now over there in Weakley County, over there in
There's a lot of Crockett, but that don't mean they were kin to Davy.
Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
That's probably true. Davy Crockett, he wasn't no little man, was he?
No,
Tall, skinny man, but he hunted and everything, and they'd take the old river
always
bed,
carried that gun.
and they'd go back down here. They call it Crockett Bottoms. Down
Right.
there just across the Obion River.
Right,
See, that all used to be just woods.
right,
He went hunting back in there.
right. And there was also another spot that he liked, I was told, on the other side of Trimble. If you'll keep going over the interstate and go all the way down into the bottom, like going towards the Mississippi River, there used to be some communities way back in there.
Yeah.
One of those communities' names was Madison. Do you remember the town of Madison way back there?
No, I know. No.
Had a post office, and it was a thriving
There was a
town.
lot of little places like that used to exist a long time ago.
Had a school.
But there's nothing there no more.
Nothing there no more. Just disintegrated. But you can go back into that area and still find some people that'd tell you tales about Davy Crockett and how that
Oh, yeah.
he said that it was some of the best hunting territory in the land. And back then there used to be black bear
Yeah.
that roamed
Down
this
in-
area.
Down in the Forks River, there was an Indian mound. The Indians used to live back there.
Right, but there used to be black bear that roamed around in
There
this
was black
area
bear around
because
here.
the seasons was different back then.
Maybe Hobbs killed the black bear in the backyard outside of Kenton. The old double barrel shotgun.
When was this? 25, 30, 40 years ago?
Oh, long time back in
50, 60 years ago?
longer than that. Back when she was young, Granddaddy Hobbs and them was young.
Really?
And that was just right back here, but they used to be bears.
Well, once more, if you
They-
go,
they came out of
once
this.
more, if you go back 40, 50, 60 years ago,
I would
we was
say-
having harsh winters in Northwest
I would
Tennessee.
say that
Almost like it
probably-
was almost as bad as Chicago. I said almost. I've lived in Chicago. I know how those
Yeah.
70-mile-an-hour
I know,
winds feel
Grandma-
whenever it's 30 below and the wind
Yeah,
chill is
Grandma
45,
always
50
talked
below.
about we didn't have winters like they did back when they were young. You know.
I tell you another place that used to have some harsh winters is Champaign, Illinois.
Oh,
My
yeah.
God, the winds would come howling down
That's
through there.
'cause it's
80
flat.
mile an hour.
That's on Peoria.
Peoria,
Yeah,
Champaign, Illinois.
and it's
Peoria's
just all
had
flat.
that- They got a huge.
I mean, if you had a farmhouse back then, you better make. A lot of people froze to death back then.
And there's a lot of.
A lot of people froze to death on the Dan Ryan.
Yeah,
Remember back in the 60s whenever that snowstorm hit?
yeah, I remember that.
Remember it?
We
It
built-
killed a lot of people.
Yeah, we built the igloo. at the
Froze to
front
death.
yard. Dad got out what we dug out from the sidewalk. We made that igloo.
Yeah, it was 60s, about 67.
Well, I remember as a child living in Antioch, Illinois, where Al Capone and Frank Capone used to live.
Yeah.
And
Or downtown Chicago.
no, this was Antioch, Illinois. This was north
They
of
were out in the
Chicago.
suburbs.
This was out in the suburbs, up towards up towards Fox Lake, Round Lake. And
There's a big cemetery back out that way. Where
Uh-huh.
they're buried.
I remember one winter, it was the winter before we moved, we had, and I'm not lying to you, there had to have been at least 5.5, 6 foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah, they had. Times I was
Of course,
I
that's
was down here.
that's
and
snow
they had
after
that.
snow after snow
Yeah.
after snow.
And they had to get on top and shovel
But I remember,
off. the
I
ground.
as a little kid, like 6-year-old kid, 5-year-old kid, I'd dig tunnels through it, and man, I'd have all kinds of tunnels going through
yeah.
that snow.
Yeah, we did
Me
that
too.
stuff. I did the
And I
banks.
remember
and
when we had a big snow
built the
and
snow forts and
they had buildings that had snow piled as high as buildings.
Oh yeah, it's as high as telephone poles.
It was terrible. And nobody could get to the store. They was
A lot of people froze to death.
snowmobiles.
You know, if we was to have another winter similar to that, I don't think the people could bear it. Do you?
I don't think they.
I
Unless
don't
they,
know. We're
unless they,
survivors.
unless you've experienced.
I'm just saying because of the cost of the gas and because of the cost of the utilities, electric.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody'd be calling, Ethel, we're coming that way. We got a wood stove.
Yeah,
Electricity's
I had to
off, we
keep
can't
it-
cook.
your arm's bleeding. I don't know if a dog scratched you or what.
I scratched it.
May ought to get you a paper towel put on it.
I just, it'll be scratching, I bleed.
But anyways, you used to come down there and visit my grandmother
Yeah.
and her half sister Lily, and you know Uncle Jim,
Her Lucille.
Lucille, and all of them.
Yeah,
All
'cause
right.
Lucille Jordan and them's all buried right there with Mr. Jim and them.
No.
Yeah, Lucille Jordan is buried right there on the other side of Mr. Jim. And
No. Lucille's buried in Sunnyside.
that is Sunny side. I'm talking about Sunnyside.
Okay,
Cemetery.
I know where my grandmother's buried at.
All right, Mr. Jim and Miss Lily are buried just right there.
That's right. But I thought you told me that they was buried up here at Concord.
No, right down. No,
Who's buried in Concord that you know that's kin to me?
I don't know. There's a lot of people buried up there. I've got kinfolk up there too. No, she's buried right in Sunnyside. Mr. Jim, Miss Lily,
Yeah,
and Miss Lucille.
that's right. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought how come Uncle Jim's head rock don't have nothing to do with his service that he served in during World War One?
Yeah, that never occurred to me. There's nothing on it. No.
See, do you know Jenny Ring? There it lives in Kenton right now.
Yeah.
I think she's 92. She still drives. She had 2 daughters.
I know that.
I know you had to know some of the daughters because some of the daughters come out there and stayed with Aunt Lily.
They were-
Those was the ones that seen the woman combing her white hair
Yeah.
in the mirror. The long white hair. You know who I think the woman was in the long white hair? And no one never put it together? That was Miss Lucille's original biological mother. The one that had Miss Lucille in
died.
1902. And then like 6 months later, she wound up dying.
Back then, a lot of women died in childbirth.
They sure did. Life expectancy back then wasn't that long. And they used to talk about how the Civil War days, how that they had
Yeah,
to go
I
and
know my
hide up
grandma.
underneath the houses, and how that the Civil War soldiers would come in and kill all the chickens and kill the livestock and rape the girls and take advantage of the situation
Sounds like
out
the
there.
Western days.
Yes. Civil War days.
Yeah, Civil War days. You never know who's buried on your land.
Probably not.
I mean, 'cause way back they dug a hole and they put a wooden cross on it.
And of course, once the wooden cross fell over, that was the end of that.
That was the end of that.
I know where there's a couple slave cemeteries right here close to where we're at right now, where they used to bury slaves. Did you know at the time it was considered immoral or disrespectful of burying a slave with white people?
Yeah.
And to this day, you can like go over to I think it's Humboldt, to where they got all the blacks on one side of the cemetery
Kenton's
and all the
that
whites on the other
Wait
side
a
of the
minute.
cemetery.
Kenton
They
is that
did,
way.
they did that in Kenton.
Kenton's that way too?
Yeah, you know where?
Sunnyside's that way too?
Yeah, it's just on the other side. There's a
See,
there's a line of
they still practice old methods in the South. It's wrong for them to do that.
Now, if a black person wants to buy a lot and they're buried over here, that's fine. But yeah, if you go to the other side of the.
But you talk about segregation. Man, they done it all the way from the time of birth, from the time of death, didn't they? Down
But-
here in the South.
And even
But
if
that's
it's
still-
in the schools.
Some
yeah.
blacks are still buried on that side because it's all black.
You remember the day whenever the blacks couldn't drink out of the same water fountain?
They could,
Yeah.
no.
You remember that?
And they make all,
I
made
remember
all
that.
the blacks move to the back of the bus.
Moved to the back of the bus?
Yeah. And then there was a restaurant in Kenton. It's oh
The one in Tillman's
yeah, the one next to Tillman.
used to be right there in Tillman's Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Little grill.
Yeah, a little grill right there.
They
I
had
used
little
to go in there and
blacks all went to the back. They couldn't eat up front with the whites.
Ain't that something?
I remember.
The blacks had to eat in the back.
What is it? They used down Ripple Lake. They had Magnolia and Sunkist beaches. One was for the blacks and one was for the whites.
I remember that too.
I remember that when we went down there when I was little.
I remember that because whenever I was little, my aunt, Ruthie, lived up there for about a year and a half
Yeah.
before she wound up moving to Brownsville, Texas. And I remember us going down there and I asked Daddy about that one time because we used to do a lot of water skiing over there.
Yeah,
On
that's
that.
the only place you can water ski.
Yeah. And I asked Daddy about that and Daddy said, well, this is for this set of people. and this is for this set of people. I said, what?
Yeah, I remember that.
And they was still practicing that back whenever I was a teenager. So that was 40 years, 40, 45, 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's back in the late 60s.
Yeah, about 45, 50 years ago.
Then they took both them beaches out, and there wasn't no beach.
Well,
And now, as you go further down the washout,
is where the beach is
there
now.
is a beach.
There
down
on the
there
very end.
now.
There on the very end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for everybody.
I remember my brother before he died in 1976 on a motorcycle accident. He was out there water skiing and it was snowing
Oh
outside.
my gosh.
He had on one of them suits and he was a water skiing buff and he had just got through buying him a good deal on a boat and
He had to go water
he
skiing.
had to go water skiing.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, whenever we left to go water skiing, it was temperature like it is right now. But whenever we got there, the temperature plummeted. All of a sudden, it began to mist rain, and the mist rain turned into snow. And he was out there water skiing with it snowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was snowing. But I also remember back years ago too, whenever we'd haul hay,
Yeah.
start hauling hay with your shirt off in the morning, and you know you'd have to throw it up in the barn and stuff.
Right.
And before that afternoon, the weather would change,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, there'd be 4, 5, 6 inches of snow on the ground while you're still trying to pick up all the hay and put the hay in the barn. I remember those days. I mean, the weather would change just like that.
Yeah.
I know. I can just pick them up or sling them up on that bales of hay. Sling them up on the cart, be out there in the field, Grandma and Granddaddy Hodges. Farmersville, we were down here. We worked up there.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, Grandma and Granddaddy Durans, we didn't work except had the farm out
But
here.
what actually happened to me in 1983, I had an automobile, 1979 Buick Regal, that rolled completely over on top of me that should have cut me in half. And right before the vehicle got ready to cut me in half, I cried out to God, "Oh God, help me." And I miraculously felt two hands. The fingers was cold, the hands was cold, and I felt the hands wrapped all the way around each one of my wrists as I'm basically helpless.
Yeah.
As I'm watching this 4,000-pound automobile come crashing down on top of my torso. The Spirit of God entered into my body, and I physically seen metal bending around my body that is scientifically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
The boy that was driving the tractor that was trying to drag me back home gets off because the car now is sitting up sideways, and I'm pinned up underneath it, right? So he pushes the car over just enough that I take my own strength and I come out from underneath the car. And he looks at me and says, "Are you all right?" I said, "No, call the ambulance." Well, by the time the ambulance comes out there from Martin, Tennessee, which probably took 35, 40 minutes, I'd already become unconscious right there in front of Bill Ramsey and Mosell's place.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Bill Ramsey used to milk all the cows and stuff?
Yeah.
And they had a daughter that wasn't right in the head, Linda.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember her. She wound up marrying